Siptah has a lot of cool stuff that the Exiled lands never got. Some of those notable things being the Grey One's weapons and armor. More the weapons so than the armor. Although now we have the Thermagogy bench, we can illusion our armor to look really cool like this stuff and blend in amongst the Grey Ones. But if you have been struggling to find where those recipes are, today we're going to go on an adventure and find all of them and talk about where we can make them and why we might want to make them. Starting off with the Great Axe. It has 62 health damage and 0 armor pen because it is an axe. We have a fairly slicey Great Axe moveset on heavy. Pokey mate. That's with no combos. Just full light and full heavy. And its location is right here. You can see a little weapon leaning up against a wall. J5, just a little bit in the corner of the Grey One's pool. Greatsword is right nearby. It has 51 health damage and 29 armor penetration. It does greatswordy things. It's just here, also in J5. A little bit further up from the Grey One's pool though, still in the same area. The next one is the Bow of the Grey Ones, health damage 18 and armor pen 11. It is a little bit easy to miss as it's just in this little kind of nook here. And it does bow-like things. They're still in J5 and still at the Grey One's pools. Now, if you want to have this snazzy armor set, it is also around J5 in the Grey One's pool area. On a little pillar behind me, kind of near a boss, these guys can also drop a bunch of this stuff. And it's usually not full durability, but sometimes it is. Well, once you learn the recipe, you can repair it or dismantle it and use the resources. You get generally a weapon handle back from the weapons and a bunch of obsidian. They're a good source of fragments too. Now we want to click this little guy here and we'll get the Grey One's armor, the entire set. We don't need to go around and get multiple different things. Pretty sure I showed the map, but just in case I didn't, there it is again. There are a lot more Grey One areas than just the Grey One pools. We will also find Easterlight, where we can then find the axe of the Grey Ones, the regular axe, not the Great Axe. Every now and then you can actually find some statues about here. Some decent boxes worth looting. These guys are usually all aggressive and worth killing. We can get this axe. Health damage of 44 and armor pen of 0 because axe. They do have fairly decent durability and they are no longer as heavy as they once were, which is also really nice. Show you combos without the little shield attached. This guy drops some daggers and a mace. The daggers happen to have full durability. Lovely. And that spot's at K4 in Eastlight. Speaking of daggers, they're our next recipe and they are super easy to miss. Coming over to the proving grounds in J5. I'll head up this way. Find a little bloody path down into this pit. And right here we'll find the daggers of the Grey One, doing 31 damage and 23 armor penetration. They're regular daggers. And we can also find a couple of statues about, like I mentioned, so definitely grab them up if you haven't seen my video about the Grey One's pools. Check that out because it's definitely well worth doing. The katana can also be found here. Also in J5, just a little bit further up the hill, kind of all by itself, chilling on top of this guy. And if you don't find it on one side, it will just be on the other side. Again, pretty easy to miss, but not too bad, really. You do 44 health damage and 17. Plus also all of these have that bleed damage except for the bow. They took that away. But the shield does have retroactive bleed. Speaking of this really cool looking shield, it does do that retroactive bleed. 36 health damage when used as a weapon and 17 armor penetration. So pretty decent shield as far as shields go. Also a decent amount of durability. It's going to be found at the Broken Temple in J4. You like yourself a bit of a short sword pokey mate moveset. The Grey One's short sword has 51 damage and 23 armor pen. It can be found also at the Broken Temple, chilling by a couple of these boss dudes. Not all of them are bosses. Also in J4. In fact, the SHEILD is right here, so you just run right here and find it there. And then just a step over here, we'll find the spear recipe too, which is a really nice sweeping spear similar to the Kingslayer's polearm. We have so many sweepy options. It has 41 armor pen, it has 41 health pen rather, and 11 armor pen, and is in that same spot just near the short sword and the shield in J5 at the Broken Temple. Another one that's fairly easy to miss is the mace, doing fairly mace-like things. Whoa, we have 41 health damage and 35 armor pen, plus obviously the bleed. It is just sneakily here on a little wall over at Westlight in J4. But before you get too far, run down the stairs and just a little bit down here, we are also going to find ourselves the Sword of the Grey Ones. Somewhere also on... Haha, there he is, one of the walls. 41 health damage and 11 armor pen is a one-handed sword with extra bleed, quite thrusty. Don't mind myself, a one-handed sword. Now you got all of these recipes, you might be thinking, where do you actually craft yourself your own ones, rather than relying on these guys to drop them in their pockets? Well, you do need to kill a bunch of these guys regardless, because they actually drop a heart when we hack them up, and you can also get some free composite obsidian from these dudes also, or just get a potentially already made weapon. But we want these black hearts. So kill a bunch of them and get a bunch of that up. Sometimes these guys can drop the actual armor itself, and it's not always full durability. They used to be really, really heavy, and it wasn't wildly ideal to use them, but their weight has since incredibly decreased, and they have extra bleed on them, and they're basically free. These guys aren't too hard if you have decent armor. If you don't have decent armor, they're probably going to one-shot you. Not crazy. But it's essentially Siptah's equivalent to obsidian weapons, just skinned quite differently. Now, you might be thinking, because we learned all these recipes over here and they're very Grey Ones related, that the crafting forge would be somewhere over here. In fact, it's not. You want to head over to this area in 6F. There's a couple of little burnt looking circles on the ground. They're in fact different forges. Once upon a time we could build insanely close to here, but they have now taken that away, thank God. We go up to the Forge of the First Men, and this is where we can make the Grey Ones materials, forge some composite obsidian, although I highly recommend just dismantling the shitty weapons you get. You won't get a heart back, but you will get obsidian, a weapon handle, and usually some alchemical base, especially if you're using the better, well, the improved dismantling bench. It's not too much to craft. The armor doesn't have the wildest best stats on it, but if you do like a cool looking light armor with some agility and some stamina, it's nice. Or if you just like to use the thermagogi bench to illusion it, it's also pretty nice. There are usually a couple of these pesky first men about, and you can also find a decent amount of brimstone, and every now and then you can actually find some pockets of obsidian, coal. There are a couple of forges to be had in case one is occupied by someone. You can use another. I did almost forget to tell you guys where to find the warhammer, so we'll go find that now too. Back over here in Islight in K4, you can find them, just sneak it on over here. I do like myself a warhammer. They're pretty decent and warhammery, and they look cool. Most of these weapons look really cool anyway. He does 46 health damage and 58 armor penetration. If you do wish to craft the Grey Ones weapons or armor, you do have to go to the forge. You can't make them in an armorer or a blacksmith bench in your own base. One of the downsides, but again, one of the upsides is they're really free. So happy hunting of those weapon recipes. Let me know in the comments which one's your favorite, or if you like using them, or if you just like the look of them and you're after the illusion skins. If you found this content informative, smash that like button. If you're not already, consider subscribing. It means a bunch. Stick around for another helpful guide on Siptah or the exiled lands. And until next time, I hope you have an excellent day, evening, night, morning, whatever it may be, wherever you may be. Have a good one.